What's up, everybody? Listen, today we're going to be talking about the 2022 midterm elections. Are interest rates better under Republicans or Democrats? Man, that's going to be fun. And also, Powerball jackpot hit 1.9 billion. But what happened to all of the previous fortunes of the previous winners? Did they invest in real estate? Did they make smart choices? And last but not least, Twitter and Meta layoffs are going wild. Meta, by the way, is Facebook, in case you didn't know. But we're going to show you a little bit about what to do if you're in this situation, whether you own a home or are a renter. All right, let's get this party started. What's up, everybody? It's Robert Bean, and I'm your host of Scale Through the Fail, and we have some pretty wild topics for you today. So, of course, I had to bring back some of my favorite co-hosts, Walter Key, Chris Rains. Welcome, guys. We're on Scale Through the Fail. We're live. We're talking about some crazy things today. How you guys doing this morning? That good? You're
Walter's a mime today or something, or lip reader. I don't know what's going on with him. So I'll answer. So I'm doing good. I'm down here in Florida. Unfortunately, I don't have the Florida weather that I came down here for because another hurricane decided to hit Florida. But it is what it is. We've got some outer bands of rain coming through, and it's a little cold, windy. But any day on vacation is almost as good of a day of working.
There you go. Can you hear me now?
I hear you.
Yeah, loud and clear. Minor technical issue with my speaker. So I was just saying, I have power today. Ian had no issues whatsoever. Massive hurricane blows through. I'm like, didn't even glitch. Get this little tropical storm, throw some winds our way. We were out of power for about 6 hours yesterday. So we're back up and running now.
I definitely thought you were talking about the metaphorical power.
Yeah,
that's what I thought.
I'm never out of that power.
You've got the power today.
Like so, guys, I grab my saber behind me and I say, I have the power.
No, we talked about that. We talked about.
We're not allowed to do this stuff anymore. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Structure.
That's why. Yeah, we can't have Brad on the show anymore because the pants problem. It was just getting a little excessive.
Well, you asked me
so guys, we have some pretty crazy topics to cover today, and I think we're gonna have some real fun with that. Some of them are directly real estate related, and some of them are just kind of trending, and we're gonna give a kind of a real estate spin. So one of the ones I'd love to start with is the 2022 midterm elections, and the reason why I kind of wanted to get into this is because there's always this fighting between which is better for the economy. And when we look at this, when people are trying to make financial advice, real estate agents are trying to predict the outcome of what they're going to do next. One of the questions that I've had come up is, does it matter who is the majority? Which party is majority? Which party is holds the presidential seat, and so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. So first, let me do a disclaimer. I'm going to set this right off the bat. This is not here to say one party is better or worse. That is useless talk. That does nothing for anybody at all. And so I want to make that abundantly clear. Any comments about insulting either party, not going to even acknowledge them, and they will get deleted later. This is about what's real estate news, right? What's relevant you need to know, noise, garbage, don't waste your time on it, and what's next, what to do with the information you have, what's coming next. So first off, do either of you guys have anything you kind of want to share when it comes to your perspective on politics and how they influence interest rates, right? Keeping this directly relevant to real estate, mortgages, and housing and things like that. Walter, smile. Go ahead.
All right, I'll jump right in. I'm going to call this one noise for the most part. And here's why. Doesn't matter who the president is, doesn't matter who has the House, doesn't matter who has the Senate. The Fed is making monetary policy. And there's going to be a more direct correlation to the real estate market based on what the Fed does and how the bond market adjusts to that, et cetera. Here's an interesting, just fun fact for anyone who doesn't know. The Fed is almost politically agnostic. If you go look at the current Fed, Fed Chairman Powell, he was put in office by Trump, which most would argue was an incredibly one-sided Republican. He was then reinstated by President Biden, who most would argue is a very other side leaning Democrat. Both of them kept the same Fed chairman. And the Fed is the one making monetary policy. The Fed is the one moving the economy in ways that will eventually affect inflation, the housing market, the mortgage rates, et cetera. So I think politics, while they're great to know, and certainly you can plan some things off of them, in the larger, broader sense of real estate, you need to watch the Fed more than you watch the House and the Senate. And the other interesting thing is, maybe they did this on purpose. Maybe they were smart. The Fed is not, the president cannot remove the Fed until his term is over. So that's something most people don't realize. Like a lot of the cabinet members, right? I come in, I'm the new president. I don't like that guy, and I don't like that gal. I want this guy. You can't do that with the Fed. Once the Fed is put in office, he's there regardless of what the political winds blow until he's up for his next term. So they're there regardless of what the politics say. And their term does not coincide with the general election. So when most people are looking at elections and appointments and what's the president going to do, that's not the time that the Fed's seat is up for grabs anyway. So they're pretty well insulated from the political conundrum as it happens. I think that's just worth mentioning because the Fed's going to move things so much more than the House or the Senate will.
I'm going to jump in there with you, and I'm going to agree. I think it's noise. I think there's a couple issues, and the reason why we want to talk about this today, just so everybody understands, is you vote according to your conscience. That's fine. Just make an informed decision. When you're teaching your clients, don't give them false hope by saying, oh, so-and-so party is about to win these elections, and therefore we're going to be better off. It's going to be a great time. You don't know that. You don't know that. And like Walter just said, if you look at the who appointed Jerome and then who reinstated, how do you know where he sides? And let me tell you, by the way, that both sides idea what he's doing. They don't, and they don't know what he's going to do, because if they did, they could make predictable actions and course corrections. Both sides want to make money. Don't forget that. So if they could predict this stuff, then they'd be happy as can be. So while yes, how you vote matters, because it will direct how fiduciary responsibilities are treated, and direct how money is spent. Do not be under the illusion, one, that one election in the U.S., this is not like a revolutionary revolt in a foreign country that's been under a dictatorship where people were murdered, left and right for having an opposing view. This is where change is, in my opinion, very slow in America, because everybody has an opinion. They're allowed to voice that opinion. So as a real estate agent, keeping it relevant to you, or actually, sorry, Chris, I didn't give you a chance. Is it news or noise? And why?
I think it's a mix. For me, I think that some of the emotional stuff that people go through with some of these changes can affect the economy. But is it 100% objective? Probably not. I do think those emotional things that people go through, the emotional decisions that even business owners or individuals make, can be directly reflective of which party is involved.
I think there's a level degree. Now, but remember what the question or the topic was not whether the economy was better or worse, but rather interest rates. That's where we want to focus on. So when it comes to interest rates, let me ask you again, news or noise?
Probably noise.
Probably noise. And I feel like I was going to bully Chris into saying noise. Like,
yep, pretty much.
Just say noise. Did you not get the memo where I told you exactly what to say and when to say it, Chris? Gosh. So here's the thing. At the end of the day,
I wouldn't listen to that anyways.
You wouldn't, I know. You'd be like, there's more noise. Here's the thing. The reason why we're this, guys, is I do see real estate agents giving people hopium, as we call it in the crypto space, hopium, where they go, oh, don't worry, X, Y, and Z party is going to take majority and we're going to be better off. Well, first of all, historically, policy changes take years to see any. They usually will take at least a year to 2 years to even get passed, and then a couple years to actually implement, because the government is unbelievably slow. That is why it is so hard to understand and track whether an economy actually is better or we're seeing the results of the previous. It is so difficult to follow that stuff. So you as an agent, you're not here to play fortune teller. You're not here to tell people how to vote, other than to encourage them, just like you do when selling or helping them buy, make a reasonable decision based off material data. And that's where you need to come in. And that's why you need to know what inflation is and how it works and how it affects the interest rates, so that when your clients are turning around and they're afraid of this party not winning or this party winning, you can cut the crap, tell them that it's noise, and tell them what they can objectively do right now. That's my suggestion. What would you say, Walter?
That sounds just about right. I'm always go to the data. Don't go to the feelings. Don't go to the emotion. Don't go to the thoughts. Go to the data, because the data never lies.
And that's our job. Our job is to advise based off of the current available data. So 2022 midterm elections, I think we all ruled then that it is noise.
Once these last 4 states are situated, it'll be business as usual in DC, and it won't even make a blip.
I completely agree. So noise, I'm going to get when I get this soundboard, I'm going to have something that's like news and then like noise and like some fun stuff. We're gonna have fun with this. I was trying to figure out what to do with the soundboard. All right, so I don't want to spend too much time on the political side of things because it's easy to end up showing our own biases through it all. So let's go and move on to Powerball. Now, this may not make sense why we brought this up, but I actually really wanted to bring this up. So Powerball hit $1.9 billion. And initially I was going to, for every watching, I was going to turn around and say, oh, how should you spend your $1.9 billion? Well, that's borderline financial advice. Also, there's a lot of factors involved in that. So instead, what I wanted to do was bring up the Powerball and then talk about what? The facts. What happened to the previous winners' fortunes? And what decisions did they make with their money and how did it play out? So that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. So we're going to I'm going to open it up again to whether this is news or noise, talking about, but you can give I got a couple stats I'm going to share with you guys on a different, let me pull them up. I thought I had them up because this was, some people will be shocked. I'm going to assume, Walter and Chris, you're going to be pretty...
I won't be shocked as a certified financial coach.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, just while you're pulling up the stats,
Please do.
So for those who aren't tracking it, the Powerball was won by a single winner. So there was an individual in California who just won the jackpot, which was slightly over $2 billion with a B.
Wait, did that
pivotal moment in their life? I hope that they buck the trend and they fare better than the statistics show most millionaires and billionaires do when they come into a sudden windfall like this.
Did that just happen?
I thought it was 1.9.
So it was 1.9 as
Estimated.
the estimated jackpot. They
Okay.
had a delay due to some security protocols the night of the drawing, and then one individual winner won the jackpot, which ticked just over 2 billion by the time it was won.
Well, hey, there's some updated news for you.
2 billion with a B. Now, granted, once you pull your taxes and off, you're talking about
Chop change.
1.4.
That's chop change at that point.
1.4, but still, right? Massive change of lifestyle. Could be an absolute blessing or a complete nightmare curse, depending on how they manage that.
All right, you guys ready for this? I'm gonna give you some. I'm gonna try and keep these as brief as possible. So, let's see. English couple, 2012. We're gonna start small. We're gonna have some big ones and small ones, just arranged because the core principles that we're gonna get to, it won't matter. It will all come back to the same place. They had a 14-1 odds of winning. They won 3.5 million pounds in 2012. It's about $8 million right now. The immediate thing they did was divide it up amongst all their family. I love generosity. I think that's pretty cool. It doesn't give us a lot about what their current financial status was. Most people who win are not in a good position, and it's reflective of what they do with the money. But something that I thought was amusing and why I kept this story in is with the money they had left over, they bought more lottery tickets. And I don't know, man, maybe they just were, maybe they had like $20 left over and they're like, what the hell, right? But something tells me leftover money was probably a pretty significant chunk of change. And they had a 4 million to 1 odds of winning. I mean, is this like the friggin', what is it, the crabs tables that you see in the movies, right?
Yeah.
Is it crabs?
Craps.
Crabs? I say crabs. That's a different conversation. And right, and they're like, oh, just you know what? You're on a fire. You're on fire. Because your confidence level obviously magically boosts the dice. So that's what I just had to share because I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was hilarious. That's like people who nearly escape death and they go, let's do it again. And I'm like, no. So now here, this next story is really relevant to our first topic and is really important. Okay. A pretty he won 18 million in 1993, so that's about 25 million in current dollars. So again, huge chunk of change. Wig, that's fun one, right? Wig maker from South Korea, and he spent a large portion of his money supporting, and I'm not going to say which party, but supporting a political party. Guess what happened?
That candidate did not win that he was supporting.
They did, and he still went broke, and he was still left on his own because your party doesn't care about you. I know that's bold. Ooh, I'm going to get some hate from that. Ooh, maybe I should show that live. But here's the thing. Your politics should not go above your service towards yourself and others. If you put your politics first, politics will make sure you're last. Absolutely, because that is how politics works. They are built off stepping on other people. They shouldn't be, but that is reality. As long as history has had anybody in a position of authority, we have seen that position of authority is almost always used. And the people who put them there are generally the last people to be considered. So now it wasn't just their donations to their political party, though. What I'll say is it also included they got into gambling. They racked up an unbelievable amount of credit card debt and then ended up filing for bankruptcy a couple of years later. So the reason why I kept that story in is the politics side of it. People often will put their politics. I know agents who are like, I will not help a Democrat. I will not help a Republican. And I'm like, you can choose that. Absolutely. That is your right. You live in a free country where, for now, political affiliation is not a protected class. Just wait, right? One day. But why on earth are you in a service-based industry if you don't want to serve others? Now, you tell me you don't want to serve someone who's abusive. That makes sense. But you don't want to serve someone because they are with the another half of the entire country that you're not with? Oh my gosh. Wild. All right, here's another one. I know, I'm sorry I didn't have these in slides yet, so this is kind of boring. So this one was interesting. So this girl won just over a couple $1 million in a smaller lottery, and she chose for the $1,000 a week. For people who don't know, the lottery, depending on what lottery it is, will actually give you options on how you're paid. And she was given $1,000 a week for the rest of her life. I thought that was really interesting. She was afraid of what she would do with the money if she got it all at once.
Smart.
Talk about humility and self-awareness. Now, what do you guys think, though? Okay, someone's about to hand you a couple $1 million, or you could get $1,000 a week for the rest of your life. Walter, what would you choose?
So it depends on the dollar amount in my mind. And it depends on the person, right? So she made a very wise decision, only in that she recognized, I don't know how to manage that level of wealth. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know how to be a good custodian of it. And therefore, I'm just going to take $1,000 a week, which, by the way, is no chump change, right? $1,000 a week, 4 to 5 weeks a month. You're making some decent change there, $16,000 to $20,000 a month. That's nothing to balk at. But she didn't put millions of dollars in a bank account that she didn't know how to grow. She didn't know how to protect. She didn't know how to manage. And so that was smart. That was very smart on her part.
Just for the record, $1,000 a week, it's 52 grand a year. Is what that averages out to be, right?
$1,000 a week.
1,000 a week, 52 weeks in a
Yeah.
year. So we got 52 grand a year.
Yeah.
So
I mean, that's basically the median income for the United States.
Correct.
On autopilot. You never have to work for it.
Median income on autopilot. And does anybody know, is that taxed or not taxed?
I don't know if the payouts are taxed. Obviously, the lump sum has a huge tax before
lump sum has a huge tax. What's the tax on $1,000 a week payout? Because that would
I'm pretty sure they have a tax incentive that they do, like, because they really don't want to have to pay someone.
Right. And you think about that, right? You're gonna get taxed at the end of the year on your $52,000 of income at whatever your current income level is. So if you're only making $52,000 to $60,000 a year, your tax basis is going to be fairly moderate.
So the government's smarter than we are, though. So let's talk about that for a second. So the government's not going to take a risk as to whether or not you live very long with your $1,000 a week. So more than likely, the government's going to get paid up front on the taxes of what you won, and then you get your own payout $1,000 a week. So that's what leads me to believe it might not be taxed, because I can't imagine the government waiting to see if you live past next week.
So it would take her roughly 38 years to make back what the total lump sum would have been, but that's total.
Yeah.
So full amount versus taxed amount if she had chose a lump sum. Yep. And this girl was 18 years old, I believe. So if you think about it, as long as she lives 60, 70, life expectancy, she'll actually make more money. Yeah. Long term. It also puts her at a very minimal financial risk, because nobody's going to come and try and kidnap her for $1,000 a week. Yeah. That, like, let's be real, like, that's a thing. Okay, and now I gotta get to the next story, though. Okay, because this is the cherry on top. This is the important one. Okay. This couple won, I think it was close to $10 million. I didn't want to do the billion ones because we just get dramatic, right? Oh, wait, actually, no. Everybody watching, what would you choose? I'm actually curious. $1,000 a week, or we'll say $2 million up front. I'll round it up. $2 million up front, heavily taxed, mind you. What would you say, 1.4, 1.5 that they actually get?
Yeah, you'd figure about 40% tax off the lump sum.
Yeah,
about
so
1.6.
Yeah, so that or $1,000 a week for the rest of your life. Leave a comment. I'm super curious. Tell me why you would choose whichever one you choose. All right, so now this is the one. This is why we even put this article up here. Not this article, another article.
Sorry, my math is off. That'd be 1.2 at 40% of 2 million.
I'm trying to figure out where all this math.
Yeah, no, I got you.
No,
it's okay. It's all right.
But still, that's you're over $1 million, right? 1.2 million lump sum.
Yep.
That's no chump change.
So check this out. This couple won about 10 million. They took a celebratory cruise, which let me tell you, even if you go on the highest luxury of cruises, you're going to be just fine with $10 million in available to you. So that's fine. Celebrate the win. There's nothing wrong with that. But guess what? They're next. I want you guys to guess what they did next. Give you a hint. It's something very smart that anybody who has any money should probably be putting money towards. Give me a couple guesses, guys, of what you think.
I bet they bought a house.
They
already owned a house. Let me put that.
Established a blind trust.
I like the trust. A blind trust. Emphasize the word blind. We'll get into that. We should do a conversation about that sometime.
And then they opened an offshore account in multiple countries and diversified that funds into different economies.
All right. Well, it doesn't go in that depth.
And then they went dark and never got on social media again.
Chris, what do you think?
Re-ask the question again real quick because we kind of went.
They own a house. They got a ton of money. They went on a cruise. What do you think they did next? And it was smart. And a lot of real estate agents could be advising their clients to do the same right now.
They met with a financial planner. Keep it simple.
I'm going to assume one of them was or met with someone because they made smart decisions. Little more simple. They paid off their mortgage, but then they went and bought their dream home in cash.
Nice.
Sorry, they bought their dream home, paid it off in cash, as I should have said backwards. But here's where it gets good. Then they invested in properties. They went and bought assets. And here, remember last week when we talked about Kanye and people saying, Ye being poor, being broke. And when we showed you how, roughly $90 million worth of assets could be leveraged to be about $350 million worth of collateral that he could utilize to get access to funds. Unbelievable. Now, what they were able to do because they did this is they funded kids to go to college, to Oxford, mind you, so not a cheap college. They are probably set for the rest of their life. They don't have debt. The largest debt they probably have is entirely paid off because they paid off their house. Now, why would we bring up the Powerball in this? First, William Tisdale. I always say Tinsdale because I just think Ashley Tinsdale and High School Musical. Probably no relation. It's okay. He said he would do it weekly so he doesn't do anything stupid. William, way to be humble and keep yourself in check. That's really smart. Facebook user, we don't see your name, but you said, due to my current age, I would take the lump sum. I would immediately find a financial coaching advisor. Super smart, great thing to do. I will say one cautionary thing because people win smaller lump sums, not the jackpot, but smaller lump sums actually more often than people realize. 100,000 here, $1 million there. There's a lot of little ways to win. Pick and choose who that financial advisor is. Don't just go with the next person. That's pick and choose, and even be discreet and limited in what you tell them. You can also have them sign NDAs and other things like that. You can have, if you have a spouse or maybe someone else that can, typically you want to keep it family, someone you trust that would know one. They can be a witness to things. You got to be really smart. We live in a world that the moment opportunity arises to take advantage of others, they will. All right. So why do we bring up Powerball? How is this relevant? Every single day, agents have an opportunity to advise their clients to either be wise with their money and make smart decisions or to blow it all and end up in financial distress. We're going to immediately do a disclaimer and say plenty of people do not listen to the wisdom of those around them. All right, now that we've pushed that aside and we've said that disclaimer, if you have a good real estate agent, you should never be alone on the financial decisions you make. What? But they're not a financial advisor, but they should know one, a trusted, proven, vetted one. They should be able to give you real estate advice or know someone who can give you real estate advice so that you can take the extra $4 you have this month and actually turn it into something instead of more Starbucks, instead of another car payment, instead of any of those things. You can turn around and actually advise your clients to change the trajectory of their life forever, because it's not just making more money. And that's what Powerball shows us. It's education. There are people that had small amounts of money, large amounts of money. They all end up, for the most part, in bad situations, broke and poor. And there are so many other stories like this. And guess what? You have neighbors, you have clients, you have fellow agents that are in the exact same situation. They sold a house, they made 15 grand off that house, and they literally, you guys know this, right? They literally go buy a car. An agent closes their first deal and goes and buys $100 steak and leases a BMW and says, I'm a top producer. Or even funnier, when they based off of volume and they go, I'm a multi-million-dollar producer. And I'm like, you're in California. You sold one home in the last year. Let's be real here. Right. And so the reason why we say that is this shows us that it's not a money problem. It's not just they don't have enough money. It's they don't know how to use that money. They don't have the right people around them. And so would you, Walter, Chris, what would you kind of give as a cautionary advice to agents when their clients are selling a home and getting a ton of money? What would you do? I'm trying to phrase this the right way. What would you do to help set up the opportunity without being controlling, without being, right? You're not their boss. It's not your money, but they get $500K, $300K. Do you have a conversation with them? Here's some great options. Here's some advice. Do you ignore it? How do you guys navigate trying to set your clients up when they have this huge sum of money?
Chris,
does the saying "don't spend it all in one place" come into play here? Usually, that's probably how my conversation's gonna start. So, little lighthearted, joking. Honestly, that's how it would go, and then it would kind of lead down that direction. And if they want to openly talk about those finances a little bit with me, then that kind of lighthearted joke will open that up. If they don't want to talk about it with me, I'll know pretty quickly how they take that joke. And if they squash the conversation, then all of a sudden I know that I don't have to take that responsibility on myself. They're trying to keep that between them. I'm their real estate agent. I'm not their financial advisor.
Exactly. Yep.
Right. So, but as a friend, and I'm going to treat every client like a friend or family.
He really does, guys. By the way, if you want an agent who's your friend, go use Chris.
I'm going to actually care about them as a friend, and I'm going to hope that they do something correctly. And I'm going to hope that they're successful with whatever it is that they're doing. But at the same time, I'm also not going to pry myself into their
right.
It's still their decisions. It's still,
and it never works. You can't beat someone over the head with it. You can't force them into obedience, if you will. So your advice is basically do an icebreaker, test the water. If there's an opportunity, they seem receptive to some suggestions, present those suggestions to them.
Correct.
Walter, what about you?
Yeah, no, pretty much exactly the same. You got to gauge the audience, right? If they're comfortable enough with you, which they probably are at this point, if you've closed the transaction with them, with the way
I hope it would be that they are.
They're probably pretty comfortable. If they're not, that's okay. You move on. If they're comfortable enough to have the conversation with you and they want your advice, obviously the first thing I would say is, I have a financial advisor who's fantastic. Let me put you in contact. But here's some broad things that I always tie it back to, here's my story. Here's what I did when I had a bunch of debt and then I made a bunch of money because I've sold a bunch of houses. I've been there. Let me just tell you what worked for me rather than try to tell you what to do. Let me tell you what I did that worked. If you like that, go with it. And so I always kind of, again, I'll put my certified financial coach hat on. I always talk about right? Don't invest until you're out of debt for the most part. And not necessarily a mortgage, but if you have a lot of high interest debt,
Right. Credit
that's
card
going to
debt,
offset your
guys.
investment income. Go ahead and pay off the high interest debt. So when you do start investing and it's a 6, 8, 10, 12%, it's not eaten away by an 18 to 25% credit card, similar
Smart.
balance, right?
Yep.
So pay off your consumer debt. Be smart with your investing. Don't put money into anything you don't know about. If you don't know it for yourself, don't put $1 into it. Even if a financial advisor says, well, I think this is what we're going to do, ask them why. Ask them what that investment means. What does this actually do? Okay, now that I understand that, I like that. Let's go. Or, you know what? I don't like that. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm not comfortable in that investment. Let's do something else. Yep. Right? And a good financial advisor should be listening to your comfort levels, your risk tolerance, your knowledge basis. They should be trying to educate you on the options, and then you're picking the options that they're going to enact.
Because they should not be presenting you options that are bad.
Right. And it's not a, here's all my money, figure it out, Mr. Financial Advisor. It's, what are my options? Here are my goals. Here's my long-term trajectory. What makes sense here? Well, we could do it over here. We could do it over there. These are the pros and cons of each. This is roughly what you should expect based on historical trends. Where are you comfortable? Okay, great. Let's do 60 over here, 40% over here. So, but number one, before anything, before you reach out to any investment, pay off your consumer debt, put some money in savings as a rainy day fund, and then start investing. Because you'd be amazed how many investors out there are like, I'm going to invest. And 6 months later, they're broke and they're selling the investment at a loss because they didn't plan ahead to have some income derived to the investment. Yeah, you heard me. Yeah, you're not all investors. Some of you are just throwing the money around and then you lose it.
I love it, Walter. I think you bring up
real quick. The other thing about paying off that consumer debt, you have to pay your debt off, but you also have to look at where did that consumer debt come from.
Oh yeah,
and you have to change your lifestyle to make sure that it's not picked up again. Because paying it off and then immediately continuing the same lifestyle and the same cycle doesn't do anything. So just because it's paid off, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
You also have to change your life.
Right.
Absolutely.
It's kind of like a detox. When you pay off that debt, it's meant to be a detox. You say, I'm done with this life. I'm not going back to it. So what I would say, from my perspective and what I do with clients, is by the time we're at the closing table, I have probably mentioned at least a dozen times, subtly and respectfully, financial opportunities available. I might have hinted at different loans and how they work, the pros and cons, and then tried to connect them with a loan officer if I haven't already. Inspectors, insurance, tax, because I know that if I put an army of really wise people around them, even if they don't listen to me, maybe they'll listen to the tax guy. Maybe they'll listen to the insurance guy. At the very least, when times get tough, right? Nobody likes dealing with taxes. That's a crummy time. When you have to make an insurance claim, probably a crummy time. I know I've put someone in their life that will support them. Now, let's be clear, agents. Many will not listen. That's not your job. And it's not your job to tell them I told you so. It's your job to turn around and say, listen, I get it. Let me show you how we get out of this bad situation. For instance, I was helping a young couple, just got married, buying their first home. They wanted to buy a home that literally had a crack through the middle of the wall. So not, for those who don't know, there are settling cracks that are normal, and they're usually at some break in the wall. It might be a corner in the wall. It'd be a place where a natural crack, just like with cement, there are natural cracks that are not scary. But if your middle of your wall, especially if it's like a door frame, has a crack, that's a structural problem. That's scary. Now, listen, if it's small and you get an structural engineer in there, you can blah, blah, blah. Look, they bought the house anyway. Okay, that's fine. They understood the pros and cons. But what they didn't do is I said, listen, do not go with the cheapest insurance on this house. If you have this problem here, I guarantee you, there will be more problems if there's not already problems we haven't discovered yet in inspection. because the inspectors will do a good job, but they're not perfect. And also they aren't timeless. You have to get them done again. Well, I advised them to go with also a home warranty that would cover a mechanical failure of their water heaters, washer and dryer, things like that. Because I said, listen, I know you don't have a ton of money in the bank. Do you think they listened to me when I told them to spend the extra? It was about $1,000 for that home warranty for the year, because it was a good one. Do you think they listened to me? Do you know what happened 2 weeks later? Their water heater went out, and they didn't have the funds to fix it. They didn't have the funds to fix it. Do you know what they had to use to pay for that water heater?
Credit card.
Credit card. So that water heater ended up costing them about 1.5 times as much, because you generally will not pay off a credit card with a large sum. Generally, you pay it off in payments. That's why they offer you payments. They know that's the way you want to pay, which means that interest racks month over month over month, year over year. So why are we saying this? Because agents, you are in a crucial point, and you yourselves, agents, cannot neglect yourself. Chris, how long have you been in real estate licensed?
About 3.5 years.
Do you own investment properties?
Absolutely.
Walter, how long have you been in real estate?
Forever.
Forever. Do you own investment properties?
Yep.
Robert, how long have you been in real estate?
Forever.
Right around three years ish, I think, something like that. Same as you, Chris. I own investment properties. I got my ducks in a row, if you will. Am I perfect? Am I rich? No, I'm not. I got a long way to go. But I paid off debt, which you guys know because I talk about paying off debt. I paid off debt as quickly as I possibly could. I have a spreadsheet where I track funds. Agents, if you're not helping your clients become more financially capable, you're doing them a disservice. Even if it's not you, you should have someone that you can refer them to, because real estate is only, you hear people, more millionaires are made through real estate. That's true if you do it right. There's also people who go broke. There's people who have foreclosures, who get evicted, who have their house with mechanical liens on them. Be a light for them. Don't end up like people who billions and billions of dollars and still couldn't get their act together and ended up in worse situations than they were prior to winning that lottery. Your home is your lottery. Use it right. Ooh, that was a good summary right there. Your home is your lottery. Yo, good thing I was recording that. All right, last topic, guys. This one I think is important because this kind of goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. Fiduciary duty, helping people, financial wisdom. The economy is tough right now, guys, and we have no reason to believe that it's going to get better. Don't let the politics fool you. If you see an uptick, it's hopium, because nothing's actually changed. It takes years. It takes years to even know if anything that changed works. You still need to assume that right now it's going to be a very difficult economy, and it's probably going to get harder. Just assume that, okay? Even if I'm wrong, not financial advice, not an economist, I'm just saying assume the worst so that you can prepare. Now, we're looking at Meta. Meta laid off 11,000 employees. Twitter laid off 3,500 employees. Elon Musk did it so rapidly that he got a lawsuit against him because he didn't even honor the state guidelines that required him to give him a notice, or their contracts. Sorry, not state guidelines, their contracts. Salesforce laid off a buttload of people. I can't remember the numbers of that. How is this relevant to real estate? Let me show. Let's talk about the difference between what a renter and a homeowner could do in a situation where they abruptly lose their job, and who is more in a financial position to come out of a bad situation, a scary situation, than not. So does that make sense what that topic is, right? Yeah. Okay, so Chris, I'm going to have you lead off of this one. What is the difference? What can a renter and a homeowner do that sets them apart? What's the difference between the two when they lose their job?
So it depends on the preparation that the homeowner may or may not have done. So if they got a home equity line of credit against their house to where
normal loan, you're right. Normal loan, 30-year loan, fixed rate, had no plans, nothing like that. Just like the people
there. Okay.
Yeah. Like most people who do not have a savings or anything like that.
I mean, they have the opportunity to potentially sell at that point. So they have equity stake that they could sell and then actually live off that equity. Some people, they do reverse mortgages. There's that option as well. If you really wanted to tap into those funds, continue living where you are, that is an option. Is it the best option? Probably not, but it is an option.
It's an option renters don't have.
It's an option renters don't have. The nice thing is you're not paying taxes. If you've lived in there 2 out of the last 5 years, you're able to take that money. And, at that point, whenever you do have to move because you've lost your job, if you need to move across the country, then you have that nest egg. You don't have to pay taxes on it. You got your nest egg. You can move wherever you want to go and have that equity from all the time that you've been living there versus renting. It was probably going up every year. Your payments were for as long as you were there, and you still have that freedom to move, probably a little bit faster, but you have no money.
Yep. So to summarize, what I'm hearing from you is that you potentially, depending on how long you've had the home, right? We're going to assume they've had a couple of years, right? It's not statistically common that someone buys a home and loses their job in the same year. It's just not statistically common. So we're going to assume they've had the home 5-6 years. They've had some appreciation rates, equity built in. And what I'm hearing from you is that they have the opportunity to potentially immediately access that equity through the sale of their home to give them at least a breathing room to do something, anything.
Yep.
They just lost their job, so it's not like they need to stick around more than likely where they are. They could take, let's say they have $500K, because I'm assuming with these tech jobs, they're in California, New York, right? Hubs. So they've got a huge amount of equity. Let's say they got this equity. They could turn around and go look at, I'm looking at a trailer park in Tennessee, and some of the tenants are paying $500 a month for their rent. Now imagine you have $500K, you pay $500 a month, right? So what is that? 500
8.5 years of rent payments.
Yeah, I was just gonna do that math. 8.5 years of rent payments. How's that for breathing room? How's that for just taking it back, right? And of course, like Chris said, there are other options too.
And that's if you're keeping your rent, where it's at. If you move to a more affordable area of the country where you can get rent for $750 a month, all of a sudden things are starting to improve.
So there's other options. It's important to know those options. You should have an agent around you who can help you to understand your options when crap hits the fan, because it will, guys. It will. I promise you it will, one way or another. Medically, jobs, economy, war, things, natural disaster. Something's statistically very likely going to shake your financial world. Who do you have around you? Walter, come in. What would you say, the differences and opportunities and disadvantages?
So with a renter, your option is beg the landlord to let you not pay rent for a while and hope they're nice enough that they can take the loss.
How
Probably
likely?
Not a high probability that's going to work out for you, but it's your option. Please, Mr. Landlord, I lost my job. I can't pay you, even though I know you probably got a mortgage to cover. That's your option. Another option, if I own the home, is I call my bank and I say, hey, I've never missed a payment, but I just lost my job. I was in the tech industry. I'm out looking for a new job, probably going to take a few months. I'd like to do a hardship deferment and pause my mortgage payments for 90 days until I go get a new job. Take those 3 months, throw them back at the back end of my mortgage. Let's keep rolling. You keep making money. I keep making a mortgage payment. Work with me. And the banker will go, well, we see, Mr. Key, you have $300,000 of equity and you've never missed a payment. We will gladly roll 3 months on the back end and keep on taking your money. You have a hardship deferment. Get back to us in 90 days. Done. I don't have to move. I don't have to uproot the family. If I really like the house and the spot I'm in, I have options to go have a conversation with my lender and work something out. Now, you can have a similar conversation with your landlord, but the odds of them working in your favor when they could just see you and put another tenant in and maybe up the rent when they put a new tenant in, that's a difficult spot to be in as a renter.
I love that. This is super awesome. So when I look at it, you know, you look from multiple perspectives. The first thing I would do is look at my financial situation, get a pulse on what's going on, encourage the clients to do the same. You guys know I'm big on tracking. One of the courses, shout out to Agent Mafia, Walter's repping it today. One of the courses, the classes that I teach on Wednesdays is teaching agents how to be a CEO of their business. And I'm proud of them for being there, because most agents are not CEOs. They have the title of business owner, but they have no action or understanding behind it. And they don't know their numbers. Guess what? Most households do not know their numbers. I remember I was helping a family member, and they were like, I know you're good with numbers. Can you take a look at my finances? And I said, well, first, go ahead and just give me some estimates on what you think you're spending. I don't actually need to know, because I'm going to verify everything. What I want to know is where they are mentally. How aware are they of their habits? They told me that they spent about $200 a month eating out. They spent $700 a month eating out. They said they spent $300 a month on groceries on top of eating out, mind you. It was $500, right? The only bills they knew well were the bills that they didn't have control over. Their cell phone bill, because it's contractual, right? Their car payment, because it's contractual. So I get a pulse. I encourage everybody, get a pulse on your finances. Cut out all the garbage, all of it. And if you just lost your job, cut out the stuff that even makes you feel good. Yep, that beef that you love from Costco, the Korean barbecue pork beef jerky is amazing. Cut it out. You can always get some more later on, but you're not going to get time back for the time wasted, because time and money interchangeable in this context, that's wasted by you not taking action and spending money on something that absolutely will not propel you forward out of your negative circumstance. Keep your phone.
I don't know anyone that's ever been productive eating beef jerky.
No, not when it's that good.
You're spending money, and then you're just like sitting there and you're like enjoying your beef jerky. So you're not productive. So you lost the time that you were using to make the money to buy it. You lost the time that you spent buying it, and you lost the time that you're sitting there eating it, because nobody's doing anything.
That's a lot of money wasted.
It's a lot of money wasted.
Yep. And then, so the next thing I would do is then I'd look and see if a HELOC, personal bias, if a HELOC was available to me. Here's why. Data. That's why. Data. When the market crashed in 2008, 2007, 2009, like it's a whole mess, but some would argue 2008. But when the market was in the peak of its crash, there was some surveys done over the next 10 years through the recovery analysis of the markets. And they said, who kept their homes? Who didn't foreclose, go under, blah, 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 blah. Who were those people? Was it people who had an FHA loan? Was it people who had a conventional loan? People in a certain tax bracket? Here's what they found out. One of the pieces of information they found out. People who had a HELOC loan statistically kept their home on average more than those who did not. Now, a HELOC, let me make this abundantly clear. It is not meant for most people. I'm not saying it's not meant for everyone. I'm saying it's not meant for most people, because most people are not financially responsible enough to use it. But in a dire situation, what a HELOC allows you to do is get access to your equity without having to sell your home, right? So you refinance into a HELOC, and then you turn around and are able to access the equity. Let's say that you had $200K equity. Instead of having to sell that, you could access that equity and pull out exactly what you need. You need $5K for your bills that month. You pull it right out of that HELOC. You can put it right back in. My encouragement would be that you don't stay in a HELOC, because most people are not financially responsible. Yeah. So you set a deadline, like the deferment. I'm going to give myself 90 days. The moment I get my first month's worth of paychecks at my job, I'm using that to go back to a fixed amortized loan. Yeah. While I don't like them, we have to understand human nature, and human nature is to overspend, to be irresponsible, literally people millions of dollars Powerball, right? This is all connected, guys. That's why we kind of did these articles. They didn't look connected, but each one led into the next one, right? So have a financial pulse. As a real estate agent, if you're listening right now, I'm going to put a challenge to you. Do you know your numbers? Do you know how much you spend every month? And I mean everything. Your MLS fees, your taxes, your gas that you spend on cars, your time commitment for showings and writing offers. Do you know if you're operating in a operating in profit, or are you operating in a deficit? If you don't know your numbers, then how on earth do you think that you're in a good position to advise someone else on the biggest financial purchase of their life if you can't even manage the small purchases of your business? If you don't, and I know that sounds harsh, but the truth is that this market right now is exposing that. There's a lot of agents and companies, Open Doors, Zillow,
Redfin just laid off another 13%
Redfin,
and closed their iBuyer program. I have to jump off here. I love this conversation,
yes,
guys.
Walter, thank you.
I'll see you guys next.
Bye. So know your numbers. That's my challenge to everybody listening in right now. Know your numbers. Write them down, how much you're spending, how much you're making, and then use those principles that you learned to be able to go teach your clients the same exact thing. All right. We are right at that time. Anybody listening in, do you have a hot topic that you want us to cover and kind of give us our take? Do you want to know whether something's real estate news or noise, or what the heck to do next in this crazy market? Leave a comment, send us a message, let us know, and we might just see you on the next episode. Chris, thank you so much for joining me on Scale Through the Fail. I loved having you. Guys, we go live with Scale Through the Fail every Friday, 9 a.m. Central. We are here to truly give you, again, real estate news, noise, and what's next. Until next time, have a good one.